Welcome, dear dreamer. Tonight, you've arrived in a quiet corner of the world where the noise of the day finally lets go. Here, your thoughts can slow, your breath can soften, and your body can settle into the comfort it's been seeking. This is your moment, a gentle pause, a doorway into calm. As you listen, let the soft rhythm of the story guide you, like a lantern glowing in the dark, leading you deeper into rest. Allow each word to become a step away from stress, away from the past, away from anything that asks too much of you. Tonight's tale will unfold slowly, like starlight spreading across a peaceful sky. There's nothing you need to do, nothing to solve, nowhere to go. Just breathe and let the world of the story lift the weight from your shoulders. So settle in. Relax your jaw, soften your eyes, and sink into stillness. May this story be your gateway to deep rest, warm comfort, and the dreams waiting gently for you. Now, let the night begin. Leonardo was still only a boy when he first began to hear the quiet language of the world, not spoken by people, but whispered by rivers, by drifting clouds, by the soft glow of morning light touching the stones of his village as though they were old friends. And though the other children played loudly in the fields, chasing one another through dust and laughter, Leonardo preferred the quiet places where shadows deepened and sunlight shimmered in ways that felt almost alive. He would sit near the edge of the forest, sketching the curl of a leaf or the curve of a bird's wing with a tenderness far beyond his age. And sometimes, when the breeze stilled and the world seemed to hold its breath, he felt as though something unseen lingered beside him, watching with gentle curiosity. On one such afternoon, when the air was soft and warm and the sky wore a veil of pale gold, Leonardo wandered deeper into the forest than he ever had before, following a narrow path woven from dappled light. The sounds of the village faded behind him until he heard nothing but the rustle of leaves and the soft thrum of life pulsing quietly through the trees. He came to a clearing shaped almost like a circle. The grass brighter here, the air warmer, the sunlight falling in soft beams that flickered like drifting feathers. In the center of the clearing stood an old stone well, half covered in moss and wrapped in flowering vines whose petals glowed faintly as though lit from within. Leonardo felt a pull, gentle, curious, comforting, drawing him toward it. When he reached the well and looked down, he did not see water. Instead, the darkness below shimmered with tiny lights, like stars reflected in a midnight sea. He blinked, stepped back, looked again, and the lights remained, swirling slowly, softly, as though asleep. A warm breeze rose from the depths, brushing his face with a softness that carried a scent like old parchment and blooming spring dot. Then the light shifted. It drew together, gathering into a shape that rose from the well like mist, forming a figure woven from glowing dust and drifting beams of gold. The figure had no face at first, only light, but as it leaned closer, the glow softened, shaping itself into gentle features. Eyes like morning stars, hands luminous and warm. Leonardo felt no fear. Instead, he felt a strange comfort, like meeting someone he had known long before he was born. The figure knelt slightly to meet his gaze. "Leonardo," it whispered, its voice neither male nor female, neither loud nor soft, but something between a breath and a thought. "You see the world differently?" Leonardo swallowed, unsure how to speak. The figure continued, its glow flickering like calm candlelight. "Most see what is before them. You see what could be. You see the breath behind the world, the hidden pathways of light, the quiet movement of time. the dreams waiting inside the shapes of things. It extended a hand, and from its palm rose a tiny sphere of radiance, shaped like a bird with wings of pure glow. It hovered before him, fluttering gently, leaving trails of light in the air. Leonardo reached out slowly, and when his fingers brushed the glowing bird, it dissolved into a small swirl of sparks that sank into his skin, filling him with warmth. "What was that?" he asked softly. The figure smiled. He felt the smile more than saw it. "A seed," it answered. "A seed of vision. Not a gift, but something already yours, awakened so you may walk the path set quietly within you." The light dimmed, becoming softer, dreamier, like starlight reflected in a pond at twilight. "You will create," the figure whispered, not from pride, not from praise, but from the deep silence where imagination is born. "The world will call it genius, but you must remember, it is simply listening to the language of light, of motion, of life." The clearing brightened suddenly, as though the sun itself leaned closer. The figure's edges blurred, drifting like smoke touched by a breeze. "When you feel lost," it murmured, "return to the quiet. There, you will always find me." And with that, the figure dissolved into a drifting shower of golden particles that floated downward like soft rain, sinking into the grass, the stones, the air, and finally into Leonardo's own skin. He stood alone in the clearing, bathed in warm light, his heart steady, his breath calm. The sounds of the forest returned slowly, the chirp of birds, the rustle of leaves, the distant song of a stream. Leonardo looked down at his hands, surprised to see them glowing faintly, just for a moment before the light faded. He turned toward home, walking slowly, the world around him somehow clearer, quieter, more alive than before. And as the sun slipped lower in the sky, Leonardo felt a gentle truth settle inside him. His journey, whatever it would become, had already begun. Not with a brushstroke or invention, but with a whisper of light in a forgotten clearing where dreams and daylight touched. Night deepened outside, but Leonardo's workshop glowed with a warm, amber light that seemed to float like a soft halo around him. The lantern flames swayed gently, casting long, fluid shadows across the wooden tables cluttered with sketches, parchment rolls, half-finished models, jars of powdered pigments, and mechanical pieces that clicked softly when the night breeze brushed past them. To anyone else, the room would have seemed chaotic, a labyrinth of ideas. But to Leonardo, it was an echo of his own mind, wandering, endless, and always quietly humming with possibility. As he moved through the room, his fingertips trailing lightly over tools and sketches, something inside him relaxed, as though the act of creation itself had become a kind of lullaby. He paused before one of his easels. A half-drawn face gazed back at him, serene, enigmatic, unfinished. The woman's eyes seemed to follow him, even though the strokes were incomplete, as if she existed somewhere in between this world and another, waiting patiently for him to call her fully into being. Leonardo smiled softly, a smile so small it might have been mistaken for a breath. "One day," he whispered to the canvas, "you will tell a story even I cannot describe." He did not know that people centuries later would call her Mona Lisa, or that her smile would follow the entire world. All he knew in that moment was that he was painting a soul rather than a face. Thunder rolled outside, distant and slow, like a giant turning in its sleep. A soft wind pushed against the shutters. Leonardo lifted his lantern and stepped toward his mechanical table, where a small clockwork bird rested on a cloth. Its silver wings glittered like moonlit feathers. Gears hidden beneath the metal glinted, waiting. Leonardo wound the key with slow, gentle turns, and the moment he let go, the bird fluttered to life. Its wings lifted, beating softly with a delicate metallic whisper, and for a moment, a breath longer than reality should have allowed, the little creature hovered. It glimmered in the dark, shimmering like a tiny star that had wandered into the room. Then it settled back down, its wings folding gracefully. Leonardo exhaled deeply. "Everything imitates nature," he murmured, "until the imitation becomes something more." There was no pride in his voice, only wonder, as if he were not the inventor, but merely the witness to something choosing to be born through him. A sudden whisper filled the room, not a sound, but a sensation. A flicker at the edge of perception. Leonardo froze gently, his eyes soft and unafraid. The whisper came again like a breeze through pages. He looked toward the window. The shutters trembled lightly, though the wind had grown still. Slowly, he approached, cracked them open, and peered into the night. Moonlight spilled over the hills and rooftops of Florence, bathing the world in a silver-blue glow. Clouds moved like drifting islands. The Arno River shimmered far below, mirroring the soft pulse of the sky. And without warning, or perhaps with a quiet, ancient invitation, Leonardo felt something stir inside him. It was the same feeling he had as a child when he first watched birds soaring from cliff edges, wings carving invisible paths. It was the feeling of a question being asked without words. He whispered, "What do you want to show me tonight?" The night did not answer aloud. Instead, the lantern flame stretched toward the open window as though drawn by something unseen. The light elongated, softened, then flickered into a strange stillness, a stillness so complete it hummed with quiet magic. Leonardo felt the air shift, as if the workshop were no longer entirely inside Florence, but partly inside some dreamscape beyond the walls. His sketches rustled as though touched by invisible fingertips. The clockwork bird clicked and lifted one wing. For a long moment, Leonardo simply breathed. The air was cool, the room hushed, the world holding its breath. Then, softly, almost reverently, he whispered, "Show me what I have yet to imagine." And in the faint shimmer of moonlight, something unseen seemed to whisper back. The moonlight deepened, pouring into the workshop as though the night itself were stepping inside. Leonardo stood still, lantern in hand, breathing slowly, watching the soft glow gather in the center of the room. At first, it looked like only light, a shimmer, a ripple, a gentle stirring of brightness. But slowly, impossibly, the glow began to form a shape, the way mist curls into a figure, or the way a dream arranges itself before you fully understand it. Leonardo did not step back. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, the way he always did when inspecting something strange and miraculous, as though the world itself were a puzzle waiting patiently for him to solve it. The light swirled, stretched, then condensed into the outline of a wing, enormous, delicate, like the sketch of an angel. But it was not an angel that formed. It was something older, something mythic, something that felt less like a creature and more like an idea given form. A being woven from radiance, neither man nor woman, neither human nor divine, a presence that carried the calm of stars and the hush of ancient libraries. Leonardo's heartbeat slowed, not from fear, but from awe. He felt as though he were standing before a living embodiment of inspiration itself. The being spoke without sound, its voice arriving gently inside his thoughts like a drifting feather. Leonardo, child of curiosity, seeker of impossible truths. Leonardo exhaled softly, his eyes shimmering with reflection rather than shock. "And who are you?" he whispered, voice barely louder than the brushstroke of a sigh. The being's form brightened, its edges soft as breath. "I am what guides the minds that wander. I am not one name, but many. Muse, spirit, whisperer, the breath that stirs your visions when the world sleeps." A faint smile touched Leonardo's lips, the kind of smile he gave only to mysteries. "A muse," he murmured. "I have sought you all my life without knowing your face." The being seemed to glow warmer. "You have never needed to see me. You have always listened more deeply than others. Every invention, every dream, every impossible sketch, you heard me even when I spoke as lightly as dust." Leonardo bowed his head slightly, humbled by something he could not name. "Then why come now?" he asked quietly. "Why step out of the silence?" The muse drifted closer, its glow brushing gently against the edges of Leonardo's scattered parchments. Instantly, the sketches rustled, awakening with faint silver outlines, as though the night were adding its own corrections. The muse replied, "Because you are on the edge of a dream too large for you to walk alone. A dream not of paint or gears, but of understanding the laws behind all things." Leonardo felt the truth of those words settle inside him like a slow-setting star. "I have always felt it," he whispered, "as if the world hides patterns beneath patterns. As if there is a great design waiting to be understood." "There is," the muse answered gently, "and tonight you will see its doorway." Leonardo stepped forward, instinct guiding him more than thought. The lantern flame flickered, dimmed, then steadied as though bowing to the presence before it. "Show me," he breathed. "Show me what lies behind the veil." The muse extended a hand made of starlight, not solid, not insubstantial, but something in between, the way dreams feel when they are half remembered. Leonardo hesitated only long enough to inhale. Then he reached out, his fingertips touching the light. The moment he made contact, the workshop dissolved, not with violence, not with dizziness, but with a softness so complete it felt like sinking into the warmest part of the night. The walls faded into mist. The wooden floor drifted apart into floating beams of light. The shelves of pigments became drifting clouds of color suspended in air. Leonardo floated gently as though gravity were a suggestion rather than a rule. Time slowed until it was no longer a force, but simply a quiet hum. The muse led him deeper into the luminous fog until the world became a vast, starlit chamber where symbols glowed softly like constellations. Spirals, circles, arcs, and golden ratios hovered in the air, the skeleton of nature itself. Leonardo's breath caught. This is the geometry of the universe?" "It always has been," the muse whispered. "You have felt it in the wings of birds, in the flight of clouds, in the curve of a smile. You have sensed it in every brushstroke. Tonight, you will learn to see it fully." Leonardo turned slowly in the floating expanse of moving symbols, feeling their warmth along his skin, their gentle hum inside his chest. And for the first time, he felt not like an artist observing the world, but like a creator being invited to understand the language from which the world was formed. As the symbols of the dream world faded, Leonardo felt himself gently drifting back into his workshop. The lantern glowed softly, the air warm and still, as if the room had been holding its breath for his return. Nothing had changed, yet everything felt touched by a quiet meaning he could not put into words. He looked at his hand steady, calm, warmed by a faint memory of starlight, and he understood that whatever he had seen would remain with him. Not as a vision, but as a feeling. He sat at his desk, picked up a piece of charcoal, and without thinking began to draw a gentle curve. A simple line, a soft spiral. The shapes flowed easily, like water finding its natural path. He didn't rush. He didn't strive. He simply let his thoughts settle the way dust settles at sunset. Slowly, peacefully, when he finished the small sketch, Leonardo smiled a quiet, contented smile, the kind that comes only when the heart is unburdened. He set the charcoal aside and leaned back, listening to the soft sounds of night outside, the distant river, the whisper of wind against shutters, the kind of silence that feels like a blanket. He closed his eyes, breathing slowly, letting the stillness settle around him. For the first time in a long while, he felt no pressure to discover, no urgency to understand. Only peace thought, and with that gentle calm surrounding him, Leonardo drifted into sleep softly, quietly like a candle settling into its final glow.